Whether you're an engineer up in the cab of a locomotive driving the train, or maybe you're the conductor taking tickets and boarding the train. Possibly you're a railroad baron with your own private rail car. Whether you're the engineer, conductor, brakeman, or railroad baron, you need to know how to talk railroad. And today, we'll teach you. No matter what hat you wear in the railroad industry, communication is important. You gotta learn to speak the language. And speaking of language, some of our day-to-day expressions and terminology can trace their roots right back to railroading. You know, we've had these lessons now for 22 times that we've come to you from the closed Lake Superior Railroad Museum. And we're not special, everything else is closed too. So here's today's episode, Railroad Speak 101. Ever go out to a bar and restaurant and order a highball, a cocktail? After a few of them, you're ready to go. Well, railroads had a way to tell their trains when to go, and that was called the signal. And the signal light would tell the train to go, stop, or proceed slowly. That was on the main line. What if you're in a small town in a rural area and it's the early days of railroading? Then you had a signal like this. It was a ball on a pole, suspended on a rope, and a can in the middle would cover it. If the engineer is coming down the track and sees no ball at all, it's behind the can cover, he stops. If it's below the can cover, he can proceed, but slowly. On the other hand, if the high ball is high, it means go ahead, full speed ahead. Did you ever get the old runaround? You know what it is. A lot gets done and nothing is accomplished. That's a railroad term for what would happen at the end of a line when the train had to go back the other way and there was a switch and a siding involved. What you do is you take the engine from the front of the train, run it along the side of the train to the back of the train. That makes the back of the train the front of the train. What was the front of the train is now the back of the train, and then you're going back to where you started. That's the old runaround. Or how about the time you're working on a project, and all of a sudden you lose your concentration, and the next thing you know, why, you're sidetracked. For this next one, we have to go back to May 11th of 1869. That was one day after they finished the Transcontinental Railway by pounding the golden spike into a laurel tie at Promontory Point in Utah. That was 151 years ago. To celebrate, the Central Pacific Railway, which built half of the Transcontinental, had 30 of their fanciest locomotives, like this one here, lined up everywhere they could in San Francisco, on the waterfront, in their yards. And when the brass pounder at the site telegraphed out to the rest of the country that golden spike had been pounded in with the simple word, done, the celebration began. The word came out, all 30 of those locomotives blew their whistles, rang their bells, and it was spontaneous across the entire city. Church bells chimed. Every belfry that had a bell in it rang out. And if a business had a steam whistle, they blew that as well. And the next day, the headline was, America celebrates the Transcontinental Railway with all the bells and whistles. Our next example of railroad speak in modern day language is not so much a part of the lexicon or something we say as a phrase, it's more a standard of measurement that is used to this very day that began right here in an ice bunker under a passenger car. The railroads had a problem. All of a sudden they were going everywhere, and some of the places weren't all that conducive to, shall we say, luxury travel. Think about a train car going through the desert in the Southwest. Why, that train car had to go through temperatures from anywhere of maybe 60 degrees before it got to the desert to in the 100 of degrees once it was in the desert. Well, what would you do? The only thing you could, open the window. And then it was dust and soot and cinders and all the noise from the locomotive, and all of a sudden travel on the railroads wasn't all luxurious. In fact, it was very uncomfortable. They needed to find a way to air condition the car, and that started right here with an ice bunker. And they would put several tons of ice underneath the car. And as the car moved, air would flow over the ice, up through vents in the floor, and all of a sudden you had an air-conditioned coach. The railroads quickly glommed onto this idea and started advertising air-conditioned comfort. Now, air conditioning came mechanically first to the movie theaters. And they did. And you know what? We became pretty good at it. All new buildings today have air conditioning units on them, up on the roof, under the basement, someplace there is an air conditioner. And how do they figure out how much air conditioning they need? They figure the space. And then they use the same analogies that they did back in the golden age of railroading. How many tons of ice would it take to cool a passenger car in the middle of a desert? How many tons of air conditioning does it take to cool a space in a new piece of construction anywhere in your town? They still measure it by the ton of ice that it would take to cool a passenger coach. And you see, once again, if you work it hard enough, it all comes back to the railroad. And we hope you'll all come back to us tomorrow for another one of these exciting episodes. We hope you're enjoying them. Share them with your friends and neighbors. We do appreciate it. And please, do what you must do. Stay at home, especially if you're sick. Wash your hands, cover your coughs, don't touch your face. And we are doing it. Let's take care of each other.